Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Terp Family Fundamentals webinar series. My name is Danielle Walker, and I'm the Assistant Director in the Office of Family Engagement here at the University of Maryland. For those of you that are new, this webinar series is intended to help parents and family members become informed consultants on campus resources so that you can better support your Terps. Today, we're joined by members of the Department of Resident Life. They'll be discussing everything you need to know about living on campus, including housing options, an overview of the application process for staying on campus, and also how family members can support their Terps as they navigate this process. I also know that we have students joining the call as well, so welcome. We are happy to have you here as well. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them via the Q&A feature. So you can access the Q&A feature within your Zoom toolbar. If you don't see that, you may need to click the three dots to expand your toolbar. And to help us answer questions that a majority of you have, I ask that you use the upvote option. Within the Q&A feature, if you see a question that you'd like the answer to, instead of typing that same question, just select the thumbs up icon. And this is considered an upvote. And so we'll be prioritizing the questions with the most upvotes. Also, be sure to look at the answered tab as well for questions that may have already been responded to. We'll do our best to respond to as many questions as we can before the end of the webinar. And then also after the webinar, we'll be sending out a resource with all of the links that have been provided today, as well as a copy of the Q&A. So if you're not able to get through all of those questions and read all of the answers, we'll be providing that in the description of the recording that'll be on our YouTube channel. Lastly, as I mentioned just a minute ago, the webinar is going to be recorded and available on our YouTube channel later this afternoon. So refer to your confirmation or reminder email for a link to our YouTube channel. So with that, I will hand off the presentation. Welcome, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today. We really want to use this opportunity to share with you what are the on-campus housing options that are available and a couple of deadlines and processes to look forward to help your Terp get ready for the 2025-2026 academic year. Yes, it is approaching, and we have answers to help you along through this process. Just as a level set here, the Department of Resident Life manages the university's on-campus residence halls, and we are the entity dedicated to creating residential experiences where all of our residents can thrive and grow by living here on campus with us. To begin, my name is Jasmine Pelez, and I am the Manager for Communications and Outreach within the Department of Resident Life. And I am joined here today with two wonderful colleagues who I'll let introduce themselves.
My name is Glenn Smith. I'm one of the assistant directors at the Department of Resident Life, and happy to see you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. My name is Flo Beauport. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the manager for assignments and housing processes. Welcome.
Wonderful. So we're going to take a look at our agenda for today. These are the topics that we're going to be hitting on. We're going to talk through our recommendation for what on-campus students should follow as far as their housing projection with over the 4 years that they're here with us on campus. And then also take a look at what are our residence hall options across campus. You all might not be familiar with all the residence halls that we have here, so we'll go through what those look like. And then, of course, our room selection 2025. This is, of course, one of those key processes that I mentioned before, getting students ready for where they will live when they return back to campus in fall 2025. And then at the end, we'll talk about some things to consider as you approach the room selection process and just some key things to talk through. And of course, those timelines for any deadlines that we're going to be having soon. And then at the end, we'll talk about multiple resources that we have from our department to really help and support your Terp, or if you are a Terp, to help and support you on campus. If you have any questions about this process, we know that there's a lot of information to take here. So we have a ton of resources and events really tailored to our students to help them through this process. And we'll begin by taking a look at our Stay On campaign video. If for whatever reason the audio does not work, we can absolutely include this as well in our list of resources and links. I hope that worked for everyone. We're going to move on here to our 4-year housing plan. And again, as I mentioned before, the mission of Resident Life is really to promote growth and learning, cultivating relationships through community, and creating safe and inclusive residential environments so that our students here can foster and really begin to feel that sense of belonging. And to be part of the Maryland residential experience, we really encourage our residents to follow this 4-year housing plan. So in those first and second years, we know that students who are acclimating to the university are really learning about things for the first time. And therefore, we really encourage them to live within our residence halls because of our 24/7 support that we have for students that really focuses on that transition into the college experience. They get to be at the center of campus life. And really learning and living together in our residence halls. And as our students begin their 3rd and 4th years, we still want them with us, but they can focus on a little bit more independent living within our apartments at the South Campus Commons and the courtyards. These are our public-private partnerships. So we'll talk a little bit about those. And I did want to note that those processes are separate than the one that we're going to be talking here today. But just as an overview, we really encourage our 3rd and 4th years, if they would like more independent living, to consider commons and courtyards. And again, this is our recommendation to make sure that students really have that support throughout all 4 years here on campus and still get to be a part of that Maryland residential experience. Something important to note here, our students who remain within their residence hall housing for the first 2 years do get priority leasing when it comes to those South Campus Commons and Courtyards apartments. So that's really something to think about for your 3rd and 4th years, thinking ahead, making sure that you continue on with us in your 1st and 2nd years to get that priority leasing for your 3rd and 4th years. And that's really our effort to be thoughtful in considering the 4-year housing plan. So I will turn it over to Glo to talk about our campus population and what our university looks like for on-campus housing.
Thank you, Jasmine. Our campus population is home to more than 12,000 residents. Our residents represent the culturally rich and diverse campus we call home, with residents hailing from 42 states, including DC, and 48 different countries. Living in the residence halls offers a unique experience of engaging and living with people who are different of oneself, and provides the opportunity to learn about yourself and others. So as you see here, we have over a little less than 10,000 of our students who reside on our residential side, outside of our public and private partnerships, and a little less than 3,000 in our P3s, which we use interchangeably. So, if we say P3s, that we are referencing the public-private partnerships that Jasmine mentioned earlier, which are commons and courtyards. So next slide, please. We have 39 on-campus residence halls that are divided into 7 communities. We're proud to share that 56% of our first-year students opt to continue their residential experience with us and choose to return in their 2nd year. And I'd like to note that we do not have a live-on requirement. So this is truly by choice and something they clearly want to do. Next slide, please. Our residential experience provides complete access to all the university has to offer and positions students to be fully immersed in the Terp community with supports in place. Earlier, Jasmine talked to you about our 24/7 support. Our housing program is unique from any other College Park housing offered. It's all about the facts. That's friendships and connections, academic success, convenience and cost, that 24/7 support again, and student development. This embodies the unique opportunity to be a part of a community with their peers and resources at their fingertips. Our mission, vision, and values speak to our brand and what students can expect by living on campus. They expect a chance to make connections and build community. That's a huge part of their role in planning floor events and introducing residents to one another. This is a specific goal that the RAs have on campus and in our halls. They expect to do well in their classes and have support they need if they're having trouble. The cost and convenience, was this investment worth it? Is someone on hand in the middle of the night if I'm struggling or if I need help or I see that another resident needs support? And lastly, our daily actions, the interactions with students, the programs, the resources offered, support provided, all of the above amplify our brand as we create trust with you all, parents and families, and be a part of the growth of your students. Next slide. We have over 90 full-time professionals and graduate students and over 500 student staff that includes resident assistants, community assistants, office assistants, and more. Another benefit of staying on campus is this group of dedicated staff, a team member committed to supporting your student through their college journey. Our staff fosters a welcoming and inclusive environment. We respond to students' day-to-day needs and emergencies and help them guide in their personal growth and development. And now I'm going to pass it on to Glenn to talk about the breakdown of our communities and our halls.
Thanks, Glo. I know that many of you may already live on North Campus, and you're well aware that students who live on this side of campus live in close proximity to the recreation center, the football and basketball stadiums, as well as the Performing Arts Center. Additionally, there are 2 dining halls. For returning students, there will be a significant number of single rooms available during room selection if that's an option you're looking for. Students can form groups of 4 during room selection and look and select any available semi-suites that are in Oakland Hall. And there are also a large number of double rooms on campus. Denton, La Plata, Ellicott, Hagerstown will have doubles, and then those who are interested in triples and quads as well. Finally, singles will be distributed throughout campus, so you'll see them in various buildings. Next slide. A large percentage of our returning students will live on South Campus. The South Hill community consists primarily of suites and apartments. Students who wish to cook their own meals will find that the apartments are more attractive because they do not require a dining plan. In the North Hill community, students will be able to find single rooms as well in Wacomico, Caroline, and then Carroll Hall, which is also our substance-free building. And then finally, there are apartments available in the Leonardtown community. Next slide. Students will have the option of choosing amongst traditional halls. Traditional halls are available for students who are doing either the individual or small group selection process. Students who are in group sizes from 2 to 3, as well as individuals, can select singles, doubles, triples, and quads in our traditional halls. Next. Students can select in group sizes from 4 to 6 in an apartment, a suite, or a semi-suite during the large group selection. The difference between the apartment and suite is that apartments come equipped with a kitchen. Suites and apartments have at least 1 bathroom. Some of them have more than 1. Semi-suites are 2 double rooms that are connected by a bathroom. So there's 2 students in each bedroom would have access to that bathroom. Students are responsible for cleaning their own bathrooms in suites, apartments, and semi-suites. During the individual and small group selection, group sizes from 2 to 3 will also be able to select from among the available apartments, suites, and semi-suites. Next. You cannot select anything though, unless you apply for housing. So please go online to the housing portal and submit your residence hall housing and dining agreement. The deadline is 4 p.m. on Monday. but don't wait. Go ahead and do it now. If you submit early, whether you submit late, it doesn't impact you, but you don't want to miss that deadline. Remember that rising sophomores, as well as exempted juniors and seniors, are guaranteed housing once they submit their form. So you'll have the peace of mind knowing that you can pick your room, you can form a group, and you can select a space, and you are set for next year. Next. And now pass it back to Glow.
On this side, you'll see a brief overview of the room selection timeline, some of our key dates. Glenn just mentioned to you February 24th at 4 p.m. You'll hear it a couple of times. Please, 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 please encourage your student to apply by that date. Right now, residents are deciding whether they want to form a roommate group or go solo or choose a space with another Terp. Through the housing portal, residents can create roommate groups or search for potential roommates. Groups can include up to 6 students. That's what we call the roommate matching or group formation phase that began on February 3rd. All eligible students will receive a room selection appointment before the process begins on February 26th. Each group will elect a group leader to choose a space for the entire group. Students selecting the space individually will also have the opportunity to do so. To participate, students must first submit their housing application by the deadline to secure their eligibility. If they did not submit an application and complete it and get that confirmation email, they will not receive a notice on February 26th. Once eligible, they can select their space beginning March 3rd. Next slide. Here we have some considerations that we encourage yourself as a student, if you're on the webinar, or again, parents and families to have their students consider. Some questions to think about. Do I want to move with a friend? Do I have any specific housing accommodations? Do I have a specific room type, building, or community as my top choice? What if a friend drops out of my group? Regardless of your decisions, have a plan B or maybe even a C in case the space you want is not available. Those who really want a space in heritage community, that is the Pyeongchun or Johnson Whittle buildings, remember there are very few available. So are you okay with Denton Home, for example, as a plan B? These are some of the things to take into consideration and to map out. If you have a housing consideration, again, you will work with the assignment staff to secure a space that meets the accommodation or select a space that meets it on your own. If you don't have an approved accommodation, you will need to contact the Office of Accessibility and Disability Services to get the process started. Next slide. Steps to group formation. Step 1 is elect a group leader and provide that student your UIDs. Group leader forms the group in the housing portal by sending various invitations, waiting for acceptances, etc. A very unique, communicative, and interactive process. And then on February 26th, all eligible students will be given an appointment, as mentioned before. Group leaders will typically have the earliest appointment. Remember that the group leader can be changed until a unit is selected, so there is time. Decide if you want to pick your roommate, form a group, go solo. Use the tool in the housing portal to create the roommate groups and search for potential roommates. Next slide. Here you see the different options available to various group sizes. As mentioned prior, you can form groups up to 6 persons. You can go in as an individual. An individual has access to all of our spaces. Groups of 2, they have double room access in semi-suites or double rooms in suites and apartments on South Hill and Leonardtown. Groups of 3 have triple room and traditional hall access with 3 available spaces in suites, apartments in South Hill or Leonardtown. And groups of 4 have semi-suites access in Oakland Hall, or 4-person suites and apartments on South Hill, and so on and so forth for groups of 5 and groups of 6. These processes, again, happen simultaneously for both individuals, small groups, and large groups come room selection time. Next slide. Room selection is a live process, yes, live, for students to choose a space to live in our residence hall. If so, they must log into the housing portal and complete the residence hall housing and dining agreement by February 24th at 4 p.m. There's that date and time again, not 4:01, not the 26th, on the 24th. Students have been applying since November 11th. We've seen lots of applications. This applies to every student seeking on-campus housing, including rising juniors and seniors. Eligible students will select a space as an individual or a part of a group. Those who are selecting in groups, they create from 2 to 6. They elect the group leader, and the group leader will select during the live process of both LLP or individual or small group selection. The great news, again, is that this is a live process. You'll see an example later. So this is real time. They know exactly where they're choosing, not just the type, but actual building and room number. Much like ordering a package on Amazon, students can place the room in a cart for 10 minutes, and then that is their room for next year. No waiting. The other good news is that current first-year students don't have to wait on eligibility to start making these decisions. If they meet the deadline, they are guaranteed to live in the residence hall next year. The only thing they're waiting for is their March 3rd through 7th date where they can select the space, but they are automatically eligible as long as they meet that deadline. That was a brief overview of room selection. Next, we're going to have Glenn go into a little bit more detail for you.
Thanks, Glo. But before I do, I've seen some questions in the Q&A, and I just want to clarify the audience for today. So if you have questions about the commons and the courtyards, that is not part of today's presentation. If you're an incoming freshman, you'll be able to go through this next year. But as an incoming freshman, this is also not part of, you're not part of this presentation. This is for students who currently live in the residence halls. And with that, let's talk about the steps to room selection, which begins March 3rd through March 10th. If you received an email that Glo mentioned earlier stating that you are eligible, you can begin forming your groups now. The group leader will send out invites to the group members. Each group member has to accept the invitation before the group leader selects. After selection appointments are issued, you can change the group leader to the person with the earliest appointment. To prevent lag times, we ask that only the group leader log into the housing portal to select a space. Next. Glo pointed out this is a live room selection process. So the group leader at their appointed time will log into the housing portal, and they'll be able to select a room based on room type, based on community or building. Just like Glo mentioned earlier, it's very similar to Amazon. You can add the room that you wish to your cart. You have 10 minutes to deliberate with your group members if this is the room you want, and then you can select it. In case you're not clear what a unit is, a room type, which can be an apartment, suite, semi-suite, or traditional. Just remember, it is the group leader's responsibility to place each group member in the agreed upon space. As a group, everyone should agree where each person will be assigned prior to the group leader selected. Next. So we have large groups and small group selections. Small groups are for students who are rising sophomores. Between March 3rd and March 7th, rising sophomores will be able to select amongst our South Hill Suites apartments, Leonardtown apartments, Oakland semi-suites, as well as traditional hall spaces. Again, group leaders or individuals will be selecting the space. The final opportunity to select a space is March 10th. We ask you don't wait until that late. When your appointment comes, you can select then or thereafter. If you select a space that you want to change, you won't be able to do that during room selection. There will be a reassignment opportunity in June if you want to try for a different space. But please select a space by March 10th. Otherwise, your housing will be canceled. Next. For large group selection, all eligible students will receive a selection appointment on February 26th to select between March 3rd and March 7th. Rising juniors and seniors will select starting March 4th. Rising sophomores will select on March 3rd, depending on their appointment. Students who have elected a group leader, the group leader will select the space for the entire group and place each student in their bed space. Again, group leaders typically are the student who have the earliest appointment, so you can always change that on the housing portal. Next. Students who are in a living learning program are able to select to return back to their program in some cases. If you're eligible, then you'll get your appointment on February 26th, and your living learning program resides in Prince Frederick. There will be semi-suites as well as a few doubles available for you. You can only form groups of 4 for a semi-suite or groups of less than 4, but you can only live with students who are in your program. An ACE student must live with an ACE student, IBH with IBH, and so forth. Again, you can form smaller groups as well and select a portion of a semi-suite or a double room. Next. Students in other living learning programs will be able to, in some cases, return to their space. You can see what's available up on the screen. College Park Scholar students can return to the Cambridge community, and all the others is listed on the screen. Just keep in mind that you can only live with students who are in your living learning program. If you have a non-living learning program roommate, then you will not be able to return to your living learning program during room selection. Students who are in smaller groups or individuals will be able to select in the traditional hall spaces. Students in honors, global challenges and solution have a limited number of spaces in Dorchester. Honors Humanities has a limited number of spaces in Anne Arundel Hall. Once those spaces are filled, students will have to select a space outside of their program buildings. Again, if you have a non-program roommate, you have a decision to make. Do you want to remain with your friend and live outside of your program building? Do you want to go it alone, pick within your program building, and then try during the June reassignment to bring your friend in? Or you can simply select outside of your program area as a group of 2. Just remember the reassignment process occurs in June. You won't be able to make any changes during the room selection process. And then there are some programs in which you are not eligible to return to your program, such as BioFire, Flexes, Inverters. You should select outside of your living learning program buildings. And for students who are in ILS, Gemstones, and University Honors, we have reserved 2 floors in La Plata that you all can select. Next. Some questions that come up often is that students who have an accommodation, they want to know how room selection works. In some cases, we'll reach out to you. We'll see if we can manually place you. In some cases that require air conditioning, we have a number of air conditioning spaces that the spaces that have air conditioning that you can select yourself. If you're not able to add someone to your group, it may mean that they're not eligible. It could mean that they're on a wait list. It could mean that they're incoming freshmen. If you're not sure, reach out to us, or have the person who's not eligible reach out to us. How will you know what's available? By Monday, you will see a chart of available rooms based on group size, so you can start doing some research. For example, if you have a group of 6, we'll tell you how many spaces are available per building that would hold a group of 6. And then finally, if you decide that you do not want to live on campus, you must cancel by April 1st. If you select a room, you have to cancel by April 1st. If you do not select a room, we will then cancel your housing after March 10th. Just remember, all eligible students will receive a selection appointment on February 26th. And if you're not able to form a group now, you should, if you are eligible, you'll be able to start forming groups on February 26th. And I'm going to turn it back to Jasmine.
Thanks so much, Glenn. To get a better sense of all of our housing options for next academic year and to give support to our Terps throughout this entire room selection process, we have a lineup of events that students can attend. And I do want to note that almost all of these events are really focused for our students to reach out to us and to connect with us. So I'll talk a little bit about those resources here. First up, students can drop in with a chat with a member of our team via Zoom every Monday and Friday afternoon through February 21st to use this time to ask questions about your housing options or the steps to completing your housing agreement or group formation. And additionally, we will be launching a live chat in the housing portal. This is something that students have access to with their login. And on this website, you'll be able to spot the chat Tuesdays through Thursdays, noon to 2, up until February 27th, to again ask us any questions. One of our staff members in our office will be on the other end responding to any questions that you have. All of the resources that I'm about to list here are available on our room selection webpage. I'll drop that link again in the chat so that you can have the registration, the dates, all of the details again are on our room selection webpage. So you can reference those for the future in case you don't have time to jot all of these down here. They are available for you to view online. So in addition to those Zooms and the live chat that's on the housing portal, we're also having housing huddles. So this is an opportunity to have your on-campus living questions answered by members of our staff here at Resident Life. On the 20th and the 21st, we are going to be posted up at the South Campus Dining Hall and 251 North for folks to come by and ask us any questions that you have about the housing process, about room selection, where can I live if I'm a group of 2, where can I live if I'm a group of 6. All of that stuff we'll have answers to for you. So please, Terps, please come by and see us. And families, please encourage your student to come and chat with us during those times. Again, all of these details are available on our room selection webpage. And moving forward here, we also are going to be having roommate mixers. So we understand that, it can be really hard to think about who it is that you're going to be rooming with. And we have an opportunity for our Terps to find a potential roommate during 2 upcoming opportunities during our roommate mixers. So we have 2 coming up on either end of campus. So on South Campus at Prince Frederick Hall on February 25th from 7 to 8 in the multipurpose room. And then another opportunity on the north side of campus in the Oakland Hall multipurpose room on the 26th from 6 to 7 p.m. So again, really helpful opportunity just to meet other students, get to know each other, and hopefully find someone that you'd be interested in rooming with for next academic year. I do want to note that these events are happening right after the deadline to apply for housing. Again, that deadline is by 4 p.m. on February 24th. And then these mixers will be happening just after that and before room selection begins on March 3rd. So we have that kind of procession of submitting your application, finding a potential roommate, and then going into the room selection process beginning March 3rd. And again, all this information available on our webpage. And if we haven't said it enough, We really, really want to remind you to submit your housing and dining agreement by the 24th at 4 p.m. You can do so on our website using the housing portal. And we really want to make sure that folks know, if anything, this deadline to apply for housing. When you apply for housing, you don't have to know where you're going to live or who you're going to live with. This agreement is really just to solidify that you are interested in living on campus with us for next year. And again, we really encourage all of our students to think about this option because of our continued 24/7 support that we have from staff all across campus. You're in the center of campus life and you are in touch with resources and support to make sure that you have the most memorable college experience here at the University of Maryland. So we really, really encourage you all just to apply and to attend any of those events that I just named, to reach us, get connected with us, and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you. I think I'll turn it over to Danny for some live Q&A questions.
Great, thank you. There weren't many questions that I saw that could be helpful for the larger group necessarily. But there were some mentions of living off campus. So I do want to share that the off-campus housing services office is available for students if they are looking for resources and living off campus. So I've put that in the chat for everyone. But the Resident Life website is more than helpful for those of you all who we hope to keep on campus. Let me see what other questions. There was a question about priority and like who has priority over who. Glenn, I believe you touched a little bit on this. Was there a chart that showed who had how priority was determined?
A couple slides back there was, but rising sophomores will have their earliest appointments. They'll be selecting on March 3rd. Any eligible rising juniors and seniors will select thereafter, March 4th. Those appointments are issued randomly. So if you are a sophomore and you are a rising sophomore, your appointment will be randomly selected. If you're a rising junior or senior, your appointment will be randomly selected.
Thank you. We do get this question often regarding fraternity and sorority housing and if that is considered on-campus housing, and that is considered off-campus housing, but very in close proximity to campus. So again, considered off-campus housing, but very close in proximity to campus. For those of you, for the staff that were answering questions, is there anything that you all want to touch on as I'm going through these? I do see the question about have students been invited to this webinar? Yes, students were invited to attend this webinar. And if they were unable to attend, it'll be available on our YouTube channel. And so you're definitely welcome to share the link with them from our YouTube.
I also wanted to add, Danny, students have also been invited to a webinar that will be a workshop format because of how in-depth we're going to be going into room selection process. That's going to be on February 27th at 3 p.m. I'm almost positive that was one of the resources that Jasmine had placed in the chat. So, and that can easily be found, that information can be found on our room selection webpage. Yes, if students miss today, February 27th at 3 p.m., they'll get another opportunity to see room selection live, very similar to like a mock room selection is what I would call it. And they can ask all of their questions and go into as much specificity as they would like.
Yep. As I mentioned, we have multiple opportunities for students to get their questions answered. I did want to help clarify one note about our fraternity and sorority housing. So fraternity and sorority housing that is owned by the university is on campus, but it is not managed by the Department of Resident Life. So there are some fraternity and sororities that are owned by the university. So I just wanted to be mindful of that distinction. You can also find much more information about fraternity and sorority life online on our University of Maryland website. I can look for it quickly and hopefully drop that in the chat. But questions about that, their off-campus spaces should be directed towards that office for more information and details.
I can put that in the chat for everyone, and then I'll also put that link for fraternity and sorority life. I'll put that in the link of resources that I share with folks afterwards.
And yeah, I've seen a couple questions about accommodations. I mentioned earlier, but I'll say again, if you have a medical accommodation, if it's a space that you can select yourself, such as air conditioning, you should do so. If it's something that requires a little bit more effort, then we will reach out to you and manually assist you in getting assigned if you're eligible. Another question was about living learning programs. We mentioned that depending on the program will depend on your ability to return. So it depends on what type of program you're in will determine if you can return for your second year.
Thanks, Glenn. Again, I just wanted to drop one more note that our department is really committed to making sure that students thrive while living on campus. So if you have any questions, we are here for you either as a family member or as a Terp yourself. If you're unclear or uncertain about your living arrangements for next year, please feel free to contact us. I dropped our contact information in the chat. You can stop by and visit us in person. We're happy to chat with you at Annapolis Hall, or you can always send us an email. We're here for you, and we have many resources and information to share to make sure that you are well informed and that you can continue your Maryland residential experience with us.
Thank you, Jasmine. I will go ahead and wrap us up. I see that the last two questions are being answered now. So thank you all so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Information for the Department of Resident Life is here on this last slide. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to them, reslife.umd.edu. You can find all of their contact information there, and they will be happy to assist you. As I bring this webinar to a close, I do want to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded, and I will make it available on the Terp Family YouTube channel later today. You'll also receive an email with a link to the recording and also a survey. So please let us know how we did, how we can improve on future webinars, as well as any other topics you'd be interested in learning more about. We welcome your thoughts on that. Thanks again, everyone, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.